Hello, my name is Megan Schlickman. I'm the owner of Nexus Financial, and I help businesses all across the country with their Jobber and QuickBooks Sync and maintaining their monthly or quarterly bookkeeping. Today, we're going to talk about common Jobber Sync errors that you're going to see and how to resolve them. Okay, so when you first log into Jobber, this is going to be a similar home screen that you are going to see, and we are going to navigate to the Jobber QuickBooks Sync integration issues. Up above in the upper right-hand corner, the fast link to get over to that page is going to be at this little circle with exclamation mark in the middle. It used to be a QuickBooks logo, and I kind of wish they would change it back to that, but you're going to go ahead and click on this button to take you over to the QuickBooks integration screen. First, open that tab. It's going to take me to a screen that looks just like this, and it's going to tell me my sync errors and warnings. You can also filter this out to look at things that went over smoothly and are synced well, but I do want to highlight the errors and warning. So there's going to be a few common issues that you're going to come across for the QuickBooks online integration. Sometimes it's going to be client names. Sometimes it's going to be invoices, payouts, and products and services. The way I typically filter it is going to be client names issues first, followed by the products and services issues next, followed by invoices, and followed by payouts. But what I do really love about Jobber is that it tells you this information when you click on each line item as to why it didn't sync over properly. The reason that we often have a lot of sync issues is for users who use QuickBooks long before they implement Jobber. And what happens is inside of QuickBooks, you have your payments, you have your products, your services, you have your customer bases already in QuickBooks. Then you start Jobber. When you're adding in new clients, you're adding in new products, there's sometimes a sync error when that name already exists inside of QuickBooks, and that's a majority of them. So let's go ahead and open up your first line item here. I'm going to go ahead and start with invoices. Even though I typically work it a different way, I'm just going to work from top to bottom to go over some of the most common issues here. So go ahead and select on your first line item. On this first example, the invoice was synced with a warning, so that means that the information is over in QuickBooks, but hey, there's an alert we need to talk about. This information message says that the invoice was synced with a different total. After syncing to QuickBooks, the total of this invoice changed. So in Jobber, the invoice total is $182, and in QuickBooks, the invoice total is $189. It gives you an explanation of the best step of how to edit this, and what happened here is that there is both sales tax and a discount on an invoice. Inside of QuickBooks, I know that sales tax come first and then the discount is applied, whereas in Jobber, the discount is applied and then sales tax. That's where we get the error balance of the different total amounts, because sales tax is being applied for a different amount. So the way that I fix this is by going into QuickBooks, finding this invoice number, and changing the QuickBooks sales price and the discount amount to match the Jobber invoice amount here. Once that is done, you can choose to ignore this message because you've already fixed it in QuickBooks and there's nothing else to do on the Jobber side, and this error message goes away. I'm going to go on to the payout line item and I will be right back. All right, on this payout line item, we have a payout of $894.82 on April 14th, 2025. The error that we are getting is that the payment is not found in QuickBooks. The payout number is listed here. This is because QuickBooks cannot find quote 988. This is because you may already know this already, that QuickBooks does not do quotes. So the conversation piece between Jobber and QuickBooks on quotes is very unclear, and this payment doesn't have an invoice to be applied to. So what is the issue on how to fix it? This payout report, what I do is I wait for the invoice to be finalized. Usually it's within 30 days. If it's going to be a really long project, I'll go ahead and create a smaller invoice in QuickBooks to push this payment to. And once that is synced on over for the invoice into QuickBooks, then I can apply this payment so it's not sitting in unapplied cash payment very long. There are a few workarounds on how you want to do this. That is the way that I have found to be the easiest, is just waiting for the invoice to be finalized. We have the deposit on the quote, and then I match that unapplied cash payment income to the invoice inside of QuickBooks. QuickBooks, just so that we don't have a high unapplied cash payment balance. So this one is one that I see a lot with users who use quotes in Jobber. But again, if you don't use quotes in Jobber, you're not receiving 50% deposit on a quote before a job starts, you're likely not going to see this issue. Let's go over a few more. All right, so the next invoice error warning that we are getting is that QuickBooks added tax to this invoice. So on the QuickBooks invoice, there's an added tax and a very different invoice balance than what the invoice is sent out in Jobber. So this is a little tricky with the tax, sales tax that are inside of QuickBooks. You have to keep a pretty sharp eye on it if you are required to pay sales tax on some of your service or products. If you keep a good eye on it, it will run really smooth and all of your account balances will be correct. But if you let it get out of hand and you're not keeping an eye on it, we can get into a really sticky situation. What is happening here is that this particular service listed in Jobber that was on the invoice is a non-taxable service. When that original product or service was made inside of QuickBooks long before, that item was listed as taxable, even though it's not a taxable item. It's a diagnostic review, and based on where this person lives, they do not need to charge sales tax on a diagnostic review for their services. So the invoice balance inside of QuickBooks is a lot larger. So what is the next steps to follow this up? I head on over into QuickBooks. I go to that invoice, mark it as a non-taxable item, and then follow that product into the QuickBooks services and products page and make sure that that one is also still not taxable. So this is all having to do with the sales tax settings. Both Jobber and QuickBooks, you have to have the settings set up correctly. There's going to be a lot of miscommunication pieces between the two, but if you are able to work with a professional to set up that sales tax setting correctly, I have pretty good feeling that you'll get that correctly done. So I'm going to open up maybe one or two example items, and I will be right back. This is a product / service that had a sync error, and it said an unknown error occurred. Please try again, waiting a few minutes, and this was back on March 13th. So I have a feeling it's been a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead down here and select retry and see if that takes care of it. Right, so I just got notification at the bottom here that this product / service has been successfully synced over, and those are the easiest errors to fix. Let's go over one payment payout report issue, and I'll be right back. This payment error is letting me know that this payment could not sync to QuickBooks because the associated invoice 879 does not exist in QuickBooks. Earlier in the video, I briefly mentioned what workflow I like to go through first. First off, I like to go through clients / customer names first, followed by products and services, followed by invoice, and then payments last. So this is a payment. This is one of the last steps I like to go through if I were to go through by type. And the reason why is because if we are having a payout issue here, I should have previously already gone through and make sure all the invoices are synced over first. So I have their QuickBooks pulled up over on this other screen, and I can confidently see that this invoice 879 is synced on over to QuickBooks, and so we are ready to just select retry. When I hit retry, we should get a notification that it syncs on over. All right, and just like that, we have notification at the bottom that it's successfully synced on over. Those are some of the more common invoicing and sync issues that I see. A lot of times I see customer name is duplicated inside of QuickBooks. If that is the case, I like to change the customer name just slightly in QuickBooks, maybe adding a Q or a 1, something that's going to keep those separated. It is a little annoying, but you can merge the clients as well. Another thing that I do see is when you add in a customer name that has an invalid character. So I think Jobber is pretty picky. I believe QuickBooks is pretty picky on like maybe the semicolons that you use or some other of the unique characters on a keyboard, and it doesn't like that. It also, if I remember correctly, does not like very long character names. So to keep your customer names shorter and not like adding in the address into the customer name line item, it can be some helpful tools for the sync issues. If you have questions on Jobber and QuickBooks, I am more than happy to answer those for you. I do this for a living, working in everyone's Jobber and QuickBooks, and I'm here to help you relieve this burden off your shoulders that you don't have to worry about the sync settings again. You don't have to worry about payments being matched in QuickBooks and all of that, but you're still getting the most accurate reports inside of QuickBooks for the financial health of the business that you're not missing out on. So I would love to have a conversation with you. There are some links in the description box for how to get a hold of me and send me an email, book a free consultation call with me, and let's get this going.